One of my favorite topics to talk about as a teacher, which is my background, a school teacher in biochemistry, um, is one of the laws, the physical laws of the universe. You probably remember hearing it when you were in school as the law of conservation of mass, the law of conservation of matter, or the law of conservation of energy. And as I've gotten further and further into my spiritual growth and learning more about myself and how I've overcome trials and obstacles in my life, the more I realize that this law of conservation is actually just our scientific way of describing the universal law of abundance. And so, what I'd like to talk to you about today is how whatever it is that you feel like you're lacking in your life, whatever it is that you feel as though is being held back from you or is missing from you, is actually what you need to put out into the universe. And so it breaks down something like this. A lot of you have heard of the Big Bang. It is the scientific theory of the creation of the universe. Now, what initiated the Big Bang still remains a mystery, but let's assume that the Big Bang is a scientific fact. And what essentially happened is all of this matter, all of these atoms, all of these particles swirling around in a soup got together in just such a way that it created a dynamic explosion and interaction of atoms, leading to a lot of heat, a lot of pressure, and essentially the genesis of the universe. Now, what we understand about the universe is there's roughly 118, give or take a few, elements, atoms that exist. And within us, within our bodies, there's even a smaller amount of atoms that exist. But when you dial that back a couple of 100 million years, you realize that the exact same atoms that went into this mass chaos, into this soup, in the formation of the universe, are the same atoms that exist inside you. Now, again, if you remember from your schooling, the law of conservation of mass, the law of conservation of energy, says matter cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. So the matter that made up stars millions and billions of light years ago is the same matter that eventually reached our solar system, formed our sun, formed our planets, and then on our Earth, 7 billion years ago, formed us. And so the very same hydrogen and carbon and sodium and oxygen that are floating around in my body are the same exact atoms that initiated the genesis of the universe. And when I think about that concept, it blows my mind that we could ever feel as though there's not enough of something. Because the atoms that I am generating in my body right now are going to perpetuate the universe to continue on as long as it does. And when the universe then becomes something else, if our understanding of the physical laws are true, then the very atoms that make up our universe are going to continue on to create something else. So let's take this back into our spiritual understanding. And here's what I like to tell people. When you are feeling as though there's not enough love, you're unlovable, you don't have the right relationships, you don't have the right friendships, you're feeling lonely, what you need to do is work on serving others and giving more love out into the universe. Because the law of conservation says, we'll call it the law of conservation of love, the law of conservation of love says love cannot be created. Can't. You can't just generate it out of nothing. And love cannot be destroyed. So just because love is leaving your life doesn't mean that it's gone forever. It cannot be created or destroyed, but it can be transformed. So when I send love out into the universe, what I'm really doing is generating a wave of love that ultimately is going to be transformed in someone else's heart and someone else's relationship and someone else's life, so that that love can then be transformed and come back to me. And if that is not abundance, I don't know what is. And so today, and for the rest of the week, what I'm going to be practicing is concentrating on what I feel and recognize as love and sending it out into the universe so that it can be transformed and sent back to me. And I'm sending my love out to anyone here watching. Thank you so much. And I hope that you feel that transformation in your lives.